Remember in John 9 when Jesus and the disciples come across the man who had been born blind? The disciples ask Jesus a question about the situation, and the Lord makes it pretty clear it's not the right one. What does that have to do with us today? Well, just like with disciples then, we still now often ask the wrong question or focus on the wrong thing in those situations. But if we learn to ask the right question, it will actually open us up to greater manifestations of the supernatural. What is the right question? Well, don't go anywhere because you are about to find out. I'm Robert Hotchkin, and this is the Supernatural Mentoring Series, where we make the supernatural simple so that you can grow in the things of the Spirit and become even more fulfilled and effective in your faith. I know you're here because you're hungry for the supernatural, so be sure to click that subscribe button, and that way you'll be notified every time we upload another episode in this series, or one of our prophetic videos, or one of our prayer videos, or one of our miracle healing videos. And of course, please be sure to share this series with anyone else you know who's also hungry to grow in the supernatural aspects of their Christian faith. All right, let's jump into John 9, verses 1 through 4, and look at this situation, and specifically look at the wrong question so we can learn what the right question is. It says, as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he would be born blind? Jesus answered, it was neither that this man sinned nor his parents, but it was so that the works of God might be displayed in him. So let's break this down a little bit. What's the question the disciples ask? And his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he would be born blind? So the disciples are asking about whose fault is it? They want to know why the condition exists. What was the open door? Where did it come from? But Jesus is trying to get them to realize, hey, there's nothing wrong with asking, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What's the open door? There's nothing wrong with asking those questions. And sometimes they'll even answer them. But I believe what he really wants us to get at, what he wants the disciples in that situation to understand, and wants us today to understand, that it's ultimately what caused it, why it's there, generational sin, whatever it is. None of that information is nearly as important as absolutely knowing whatever it is and why ever it is, Jesus has dealt with it. He wanted the disciples to know, hey, do me a favor. Don't focus so much on why it is or how it came to be, but focus on that I have dealt with it, that I have overcome it all. He wanted them to know that no matter what the condition was or what caused it, he had overcome it, and that they could step into that and partner with him to see whatever it is, why ever it is, whenever it is, wherever it is, dealt with, because Jesus had defeated it. Now, there's nothing wrong with asking him, what's going on here? Why is this? Is there an open door that needs to be dealt with? Those are all good questions, but they're not really the right question, and they're not usually the correct thing to really focus in on. The correct thing to focus in on is that Jesus has dealt with it all, no matter what it is, no matter why it is, the complete work of the cross, the stripes that he took, the empty tomb, everything he has won, done, and given to us to inhabit, to live from, to minister from. Sure, we can ask him, hey, why is this here? Is there anything we need to deal with? But we do that from the perspective of not whose fault it is, not how did it get the open door, but Jesus has dealt with it. So how are we going to overcome it? Because here's the better question that he's implying. Let's look at his answer again. So they asked, who sinned, the man or his parents, that he would be born blind? Jesus answered, it was neither that this man sinned nor his parents, but it was so that the works of God might be displayed in him. So the better question that Jesus is leading them to, and again, he's not upset. He's like, how dare you ask that question? He's helping them see that in the root of their question, they're like, okay, we got to figure this out. We got to know what the root is. We need to know this. That's good information to have, but only if you already know that whatever it is and why ever it is, Jesus has dealt with it. So when he says, It was so the works of God might be displayed. The better question, the one that will open the supernatural up for us in situations like this, is to ask the Lord, how do you want to display your works here, Lord? How do you want to put your glory on display here, Lord? How do we partner with you in the finished work of the cross to see this thing torn down, Lord? Now, from that, he might say, okay, here's the root issue, and you need to deal with this. So declare this, and it's done. But we don't seek the information because we think, oh, if I don't know that, I can't deal with this. The good question, the right question that'll open the supernatural up to us is, okay, Lord, how do you want to display your works here? That's what Jesus is getting at. It's not about who sinned, whether it's him or his parents, but Jesus says it was so that the works of God might be displayed. So the question, the right question, will open you up to the supernatural, greater manifestations in any situation you discover. Ask the Lord, how do you want to put your works on display? How do you want to put your glory on display? How do I partner with you in the finished work of the cross to see whatever it is in front of me that's not on earth as it is in heaven to be shifted, to be torn down, and for your kingdom to come and your will to be done? Because if the enemy is really defeated, and he is. Just look at 1 John 3:8 that says, the Son of God appeared for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil. So we know that's true. Then look at John 19:30 when Jesus is hanging on the cross and he says, it is finished. He's not just talking about his ministry on earth, his time in earth, what the Father sent him for here on earth. He's talking about all of that, but he's also talking about the mandate that John is writing about in his first epistle, where it says the Son of God appeared for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil. So when Jesus says it is finished, it means hell, sin, and death is defeated. They're overcome. He has finished his assignment. He has destroyed the works of the devil. Then add into that mix 2 Corinthians 2:14, where the Apostle Paul is saying, hey, here's our posture. Thanks be to God who always, not most of the time, not usually, not often, but always leads us in triumph in Christ Jesus. Notice how the Apostle Paul doesn't say, praise be to God who gives us triumph. No, he's already given it to us through the finished work of the cross, right? Through every work of the enemy being destroyed through the finished work of the cross, right? So he says he's leading us in triumph. This is the Apostle Paul mentoring the church at Corinth, really in what Jesus is mentoring the disciples in John 9. The question here is, Lord, how do you want to put your works on display? How do you want to reveal your glory? How can we partner with you to execute and legislate the absolute victory we have through you in the finished work of the cross? Or, Lord, how do you want to lead us in triumph in this situation? Because you have given it to us. Once we realize all that, then as I said, the question is, God, how do you want to lead us in triumph? How do you want to put your glory on display here, Lord? How do you want to show your works? That's the question that will help us see the opportunity to release his supernatural solution in the midst of any natural situation that isn't on earth as it is in heaven. Because ultimately what we see in John 9 is he's not rebuking the disciples. He's not saying that was a dumb question. He's saying, hey, I want to make sure your focus is right, that in these situations, it's always about the revelation of God, the revealing of God, his good works, his glory, his complete, utter, and total victory, that his kingdom is greater. Jesus wasn't as interested in why the man was blind, because he knew it had been dealt with. He knew he was greater than any of the root issues. He'd come to deal with all of that. He was more interested in the man seeing, and he was also interested in his disciples seeing the opportunity that was in front of them. And he was interested in the whole wide world seeing that he and his kingdom were real and are greater than anything that is not on earth as it is in heaven. So what he's doing with the disciples then, and what he's helping us with now, is not be so caught up in, oh, I got to figure out the root issue. I got to figure out the open door. Great questions to ask. And he may tell you how to lean into that if you already know that this whole situation is an opportunity for God's kingdom to be revealed, God's good works to be revealed, God's glory to be revealed, God's finished work of the cross to be revealed. Remember one of the prophetic words God gave me for 2024 that I shared with you all. He said, where we have seen the storms, now we will see the opportunity in those storms. And when we do, we will step into our authority to deal with those storms and silence those storms. But then remember, as he unpacked that word and I shared it with you, he also added that in 2024, some of our greatest opportunities won't look like opportunities at first. Because we hear opportunity and we think, oh my gosh, open door, increased favor, that kind of thing. But he said many of our opportunities will at first look like, many of our greatest opportunities at first will look like delays, attacks, irritations. They're going to look like storms. But in the storm, we're going to see the opportunity. The disciples were looking at the storm of the man's blindness and saying, why is this? What caused this? Who's the blame? And Jesus was helping them see, hey, nothing wrong with those questions, but it all begins with the question of, God, how do you want to put your works on display here? How do you want to show your glory and your goodness? How can we partner with you in the triumph you have given us to see it made on earth as it is in heaven? You know, there are a lot of blind people out there in the world today. Some literally blind, but a lot of more metaphorically blind to the gospel, blind to the truth of God, blind to the truth in many spheres. And those things can sometimes be frustrating. We can look at our nation and think all the people who are just blindly following so much hoo-ha and nonsense. And don't bother getting irritated with that. And I'd even say, hey, don't waste time trying to figure out how did this all get in. Ask God, how do you want to reveal your works here? How can I partner with you that you lead us in triumph so I can step into my authority and see it made on earth as it is in heaven? So I hope that was a big encouragement for you guys. I got a free gift for you I want to make sure you know of. But just before I do that, I always have to give a quick shout out to our Robert Hotchkin ministry partners. RHM partners, we cannot thank you enough for your faithful and faith-filled giving. Every month when you give, you help us do everything that we're doing, from all the media that's going out there to some of the ministry and mission trips to the nations that we have planned, and so much more. Thank you. Hey, if you haven't partnered with us yet, I highly encourage you to do so, especially if you're being blessed by the Supernatural Mentoring Series or any of our other media that we're putting out there, all for free. Our partners help make that happen. If you go to roberthotchkin.com, click the giving link, you can give a one-time generous donation that we will put to work for the gospel right away. But I'd love for you to become one of our Go team. That's our monthly partners who sow every single month, support every single month, and help us go to the world through meetings, ministry, missions, media, and more. And here's the free gift I have for you. This month, anybody who partners with us for $30 or more a month, we're going to give you a free download of my teaching, God of the Impossible. You want to talk about a revelation we need in this time and hour? This is all came from a visitation I had of the Lord, where he said, I want to reintroduce myself to my people as God of the impossible. And I'm going to tell you what, we saw amazing things starting to break forth. So I've got that gift for you. And then, of course, every day I pray for you partners. Robert Hotchkin Ministries is in a time of expansion and multiplication and increase, but that's not just for our ministry. That's for all of our partners too. So every day I am praying, I'm decreeing, I'm declaring, and by faith, I'm laying hold of your increase, your expansion, your enlargement, your multiplication, and everything that you are created for and called to. So thank you so much for going to roberthotchkin.com, click that giving link, and becoming one of our monthly Go team partners. And hey, as I said at the top, be sure to subscribe to this channel. That way you're notified every time we upload another episode of our Supernatural Mentoring Series or any other of our great content for you. And of course, please like the videos and share them, especially with those you know who are also hungry to grow in the supernatural aspects of their Christian faith. If you're hungry for more of the supernatural, you don't have to wait for the next Supernatural Mentoring Series video. I recommend you go and get a copy of my new book, Realms of Power, Operating in Untapped Dimensions of Holy Spirit Power, today. You can get it through roberthotchkin.com, amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com. You can go to your local bookstore, and if they don't have it on the shelf, they'll order it in for you. And if you happen to like ebooks, well, you can get a Kindle edition from Amazon, or you can get an iBook edition from Apple Books. But anywhere in the world, you can get a copy, either a hard copy or a digital copy, an ebook copy of Realms of Power. And it'll open up 12 different supernatural realms of power in the Holy Spirit to you. Every single chapter is about another realm, shows you scripturally what you have, and gives you keys on how to begin to move in it, so you can start establishing these realms in your life and in the earth through your life. There are things like the power of faith, the power to work miracles, the power to shift atmosphere, the power of tongues, the power of decree, the power to create wealth, and so much more. Get your copy of Realms of Power and start moving in the supernatural aspects of your Christian faith today.